All right, so we are
Hello.
recording in Purple Room podcast today with Towns is talking about speculative evolution, which is something I know nothing about. So I'm just kind of gonna sit and listen.
Well, speculative evolution, or spec-evo if you're hip. I'm not, so I probably shouldn't be using it. I'm getting off topic. Anyways, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Speculating about evolution. It can mean a buttload of different things. Shut up, phone. Damn it. So, let me provide a few examples. So if it seems tilted, I am rather neurodivergent. Anyway,
We all are here.
Anyway, it can mean evolution of species here in the future. This usually means after we humans have gone out of the picture, although there are a couple of projects such as Urban Future where that is not the case. But primarily it's after we've kicked the bucket.
Understandably so.
Projects such as After Man and The Future is Wild will cover this. They're both we'll talk about them later, but I'll provide a few put an example from one of them. Oh, give me a moment to select which one. Alright, so, after most for example, in Afterman, after most carnivorans went kaputski, other mammals had to take their place. Unsurprisingly, this fell to a group of unspecialized small generalists, rats or rodents of some stripe or another. Been a while since I've read it, so I'm not specific. Another thing Spec-Evo can be a term is evolution of alien species on other worlds, sapient or otherwise. Projects such as SNIAD, Patan, and B. Yeah. I do not remember the name of the series itself, but the planet was called Darwin. And anyway, it's also rather It's also a rather popular genre of speculative evolution.
Alien species is?
Yep, sapient or otherwise.
So what do you mean by sapient? Right, because I think you're using it in because there's a difference between words and terms, right? And this is a spec-evo term. Not everybody.
It's basically what most Star Trek characters mean when they say sentient.
Okay. All right.
Now, here's another. I'll bring it back up later.
Okay.
Another genre which is rather popular is seed wars. This itself is a subgenre of another genre whose name I cannot remember. Well, anyways, the idea is putting just a couple species within an entire planet to grow and develop on, and let things get nuts.
And I bet they do, right?
Indeed they do. It was first popularized by Dylan Badger's Serena, that's Serina. And shortly after that had a series directly inspired by it, Hamster's Paradise came rather close to the forefront. And a much more recent one, so recent that things haven't had time to get outlandish yet. I can speak English.
We're all articulate here. It's fine.
Is Planet Cat Sanctuary. It's got a bit more history behind it. Now, I was planning on swerving back to sapient versus sentient, but I don't really have much to say besides what I said earlier in this segment, except sapient isn't so concretely defined. It's fuzzy. We've only really got one example of sapiens to work with. Boop. And there's a bunch of other things that could be considered sapient. I personally, he had. If there were, there might even be another sapient species here on Earth. I personally, have suspicions like the octopus.
Ooh, yeah, they're smart.
Now, let's cover the history of speculative evolution. The only series that the things covered in here are united in only one thing. They're old as heck. Like, the oldest thing I could think of was rhinograde. It was made as satire a while ago. And it was and it was created by German zoologist Gerolf Steiner in 1961. In the 1961 book about Leben der Rhinogadentia, translated into English in 1967 as the snails, another name for the rhinogrades, form and life of the rhinogrades.
I dig that it was done by a zoologist, like an actual zoologist.
Yeah.
That gives the genre some, like, not that it's not credible, but some credibility to people who'd be skeptical about delving into it, I guess.
Yeah. It was originally, I believe it was originally intended as satire, but...
Well, so was the term the Big Bang, right?
Was it?
Yeah. There's your fact for the day.
Elaborate on that later.
Will do.
Anyways, is the rhinogrades are all designated by one specific thing. They're prominent multi-purpose schnoz noses, which, due to this being a work of satire, often resemble effed up human noses. Just checking, am I allowed to swear on this? I've been erring on the side of no.
Let's say no for now. If you're gonna cuss, like, make it a well-placed one. Don't just sprinkle them in willy-nilly.
Gotcha. Anyway, another one which came later is after man. Did you write this as after men, or is the A just weird?
I might just have bad handwriting. I make my A with like it's not a normal A. It's a.
Anyway, after man was written in a zoology of the future, or was written in or published in 1981 by a Scottish geologist and paleontologist called Dougal Dixon. Remember that name well? He's going to come up often.
Excellent.
And it explores a to quote the Wikipedia article, which I have pulled up right now, explores a hypothetical future set 50 million years after the extinction of humanity, a time period Dixon dubs the post-Homic, which is inhabited by animals that have evolved from survivors of a mass extinction succeeding our own time. Now, a thing to note is that this was written in 1981, so there's some taxonomical oddities. Shrews and moles and stuff are all grouped in the same group, that being insectivores. Was one of the animals the Eid Stalker, I think is the name. I don't think.
Oh, I remember this.
Reed stilt. That's it. The one has 15 neck vertebrae. I'll leave it to any geneticist watching this to figure out why that is not possible in nature.
Even giraffes.
They
have the same amount of vertebrae as us, which is what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and it is technically possible to go a bit longer, but that's veering into specific territories. Anyway, is another series of Dixon's that I rather like, but it was credibly executed in my opinion, is Man After Man. It itself explores one of the most common genres of speculative evolution, posthumans, that being a non-sapient descendants of Homo sapiens sapiens. Apparently now keep in mind Dixon himself isn't that fond of the book, considering it a quote disaster of a project.
Oh.
Understandably, as its basis in actual science and swings back and forth. Now another project he worked on is The Future is Wild.
See, I remember watching that one in like middle school. So that's, I guess, how you know it's old.
Yep. This one's more recent, 2002. And it served as an introduction to little ones about how speculative evolution works. There were some odd decisions made, for example, making gannets into seal-like things, which I don't think is possible, causing birds to evolve into what are essentially avian rats within a time frame that is far too short.
Also an interesting decision, I think.
And causing mammals to go extinct relatively quickly. That part is understandable since all is apparently rather difficult to animate.
So we should note that because it's difficult to animate, that this was a TV series, not a book.
TV series, yes.
Right, so it was done by CGI. I remember the flesh, and they had the jaws that like.
Yep. Yeah. Now, interesting. It was first conceived by independent producer Joanna Adams, who was originally created in them as John Adams.
Okay.
Now, the itinerary is to say why these are important to Spec Evo, and honestly, I only selected them based on one unifying characteristic: they're old. They were created before I was born.
So they may just not be like super important in the genre today, but they set the basis for it. It's not just a new thing that the cool kids are doing on Reddit. They helped us help the community crystallize the idea as Now, a note: speculative evolution need not be fully grounded in science, and you can get really weird and creative with this stuff. Creatures need not even be carbon-based. Okay.
A notable example is Codex Inversus, a world-building project with its own subreddit, r/Codex Inversus. It's notable for having magic, which several species of insects are capable of harnessing. The actual for various effects to hunt or other things. A notable example is the necromancer bees, which make corpses their hives and do with their little bee dances all over its limbs, forming magical knots which allow the corpse to move.
That's pretty awesome.
Now, a much, much, much weirder project is Phonofauna. Like most of these things, it will be found on Reddit, primarily on Reddit, and it details life made of sound.
Cool.
And the physics were a bit beyond me, so I didn't really absorb it much, but it seems really neat. In fact, a commenter on one of the Reddit posts theorized that Phonofauna was the first fauna to exist in the universe, but we're getting a bit off topic. Anyways, another project by Reddit project thing is self-replicating machines, which puts it relates to machines which can produce duplicates of themselves, and allowing the template to deviate or while creates evolution. Now, I don't think the project has a specific name, but but if you saw ultra crystal-throated walk wheel somewhere on the internet, you should be able to find it. This will be on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can just post links in the description.
We can, yeah.
Good.
That's a good idea.
Now, a relatively more common and atypical scenario is zero gravity. Put simply, creating ecosystems with an atmosphere and an ecosystem. I said ecosystem only on the sentence. That was redundant. But no gravity. Things can get wild. This was covered in another thing I really should have added to the itinerary all tomorrow's. And it was also covered in the Tiandi Habitat series, and it's covered in another, and you should look up Bosun's Journal.
That's the one you've been reading to me and advising.
Yeah. It has a sequel coming out. Now, here's some advice for people who want to get into it.
Because I know that I've Googled it and been like, wow, I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to just back out.
Well, I never really felt that, but I feel the need, if you really want to get into it, keep pushing.
Yeah.
It can be found on pretty much anywhere on most social media sites. It's my alma mater in it is Reddit, but it can also be found on DeviantArt, Tumblr, Twitter. You probably want to avoid Twitter, by the way. and there's even some specific websites, some individual websites which were created to store them, like Planet Cat at Sanctuary or Serena.
With an I. I misspelled that in prepping.
Correct, you did. Now, the future is wild. Can be watched online, and rhinogrades can be read. I'm not exactly sure how you can get the other ones mentioned in the history section of this podcast. But
I mean, I bet if you're your local library, you go to the reference librarian and say, "Hey, I want this book called After Man." Your reference librarian could pick it up for you.
But I do not go to the library often, so good to know.
I got you. Libraries are my favorite.
Anyway. Asa. I've completely lost my train of thought.
Lost your train of thought. So you were doing advice to get into
Thank you, yes. Now, Serena can be looked up relatively easily. In fact, a bunch of these projects can be found through an interesting series. Look them up to an interesting act. Look them up on TV tropes. Not all of them have TV tropes pages, but the really big ones do. Including Bosun's Journal.
Okay.
And TV tropes is a good middleman. I found it really helpful for discovering these things.
Heck yeah.
Now, here's some advice for people who are planning on doing Spec Evo. I really only have two bits of advice, and both of them relate to filter feeders in some way.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to create something bespoke. Spec Evo whale equivalents I found and speckles in general tend to like adapting one thing to fit another purpose. For example, the furcas in Hamster's Paradise. Ice used their teeth and whiskers to filter feed. But now, baleen, which is found in filter feeding whales here. Baleen is part of the integumentary system. I probably butchered the saying of it, which is the same sort, which contains your skin and a the inside of your mouth, and possibly your teeth as well. I'm not sure. Anyways, is don't be. You can create bespoke things from time to time, and relatively simple things that can try to. A bit of advice for doing that I came up with just now is small things that do big things. For example, baleen is at its core pretty much the tail, but it's literally the livelihood of large baleen whales. You can't create limbs out of the blue, but you can. But you can do simple stuff.
So it sounds like to do Spec Evo without launching a whole research project, pick a trait like something keratin based like hair, and then make it do something else.
Well, that's not a specific bit of advice I really encourage. Okay. Doing a Spec Evo project is just that, a project.
Right.
But if you're expecting making hair do something else can give you a lot of mileage.
Yeah.
For example, on Hamster's Paradise, I'm going to be coming back to that a lot because I look at it a lot. Mm-hmm. There's a group called the reptiles, which essentially developed into reptiles.
Interesting.
Even though they're descended from hamsters.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. You may have to explain that one to me later.
Mayhaps. Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about advice. Do we want to end on the meme that you printed out?
I don't really know how to continue, so yes.
Sure. So let's end on a meme.
Quite simply, when designing filter feet, this is really something that kind of annoys me when people, and a lot of people, when designing filter feeders. Will it be backwards in the end part?
It might be, but if you say what the text is, we will be able to...
The text of this meme reads as follows. Convergent evolution in real life. Convergent evolution in Spec Evo projects. Puts it simply because something evolve all the same things as another creature doesn't mean it just becomes a copy of that creature. Like most conversations, I have no idea how to end this.
So I will end it. That's the Purple Room Podcast where all topics are cool.
Are most entries as awkward as this?